Jefferson Smith, are you ready, sir? Where are you? Okay, here he comes. Jefferson is a new friend to our group. He's been a pioneer. He's been fighting this for over 5 years. He'll introduce himself formally, but one thing that I will emphasize in a number of comments here today is the honor we have for the pioneers. While we were sitting around watching television, drinking Mai Tais or whatever, we had a whole bunch of folks out there throwing sand in the gears of what appeared to be something that probably maybe shouldn't go forward. So a lot of us woke up, and Jefferson was there 5 years earlier. He's going to touch on some of the environmental issues of this project and a little bit, I think, on the synergy between the states that's unfolding. Jefferson?
I used to be a public speaker, but it's been a while. My grandfather and I were very close. He taught me how to bait a hook and aim a shotgun. He had a picture of Ronald Reagan on his mantle. I voted for Barack Obama 4 times. Primaries, not voter fraud. And we disagreed on a lot. I think there is an important role for government to solve problems that we can't solve ourselves. My father's and my grandfather's more admired successes were in the private sector and in business. I see a huge problem with growing wealth disparities and the destruction of our natural environment. He saw a significant problem with the growth of government. I saw international unrest and a fear that we wouldn't be able to get along as a world, and he was concerned about hippies ruining the country that he loved. What did we agree on? We agreed that when government spent money, it ought to spend it well. And when it was going to do a project, it ought to do the best project it could. And that the purpose of government was, in fact, whether it was a bigger role or a smaller role, it was to solve problems, not to reward power. Now, I ran for the legislature 4 years ago, and I was asked if I would support a gas tax. And I said, well, if it is good for my little plot of land, and if it makes it easier for people not to drive, if it's going to make it more expensive for them to drive, then yeah, I'd support it. But otherwise, I wouldn't. Well, the gas tax came up in my first session of the legislature. It was pushed by my speaker, the toughest vote I ever made, because all the power was in favor of it. And I learned that part of the reason they were doing it is because they wanted to fund some additional preparation to build a 6-mile highway structure they were calling a bridge over the river very nearby to us right now. And with lump in my throat, I voted no on that bill. We also were able to keep any earmarks out of that bill for the CRC. And that was a big deal, felt like a victory. We found out shortly after the session they just spent the money anyway. And I got a glimpse into the power that was being applied behind the scenes, decidedly out of the view of any public testimony, in my first session of legislature. My second session of legislature came across a bill to put a rubber stamp on the project and say we really like it and Congress please give us money for it, and it was designed to be an easy vote because it wouldn't cost anything. It wasn't in fact an appropriation for any money. And there was a crew of folks who resisted that bill and probably wouldn't have had the votes to stop it, but did have enough votes to make it kind of embarrassing for a free bill to only get 30-something votes out of 60 rather than 50-something votes. The third time I came across the power of the project when I was running for mayor of Portland. I lost in a pretty painful way. But I was told at the beginning of the race, had I supported the project, that I would have swept a set of endorsements that were very, very important. And what I recognized, there was very little power organized resisting the project. And so I've been at it a while, but not, there were a lot of people at it before I was, and some of them are here. But the final thing I'll say, what I recognize, that to me this has not been a question of policy. The problem we've had is not one of math or planning. The problem we've had is one of politics and power. is not because the best pointy heads are figuring out the best answer, but because the biggest muscle is pushing through an answer they've settled on and aren't willing to reconsider. And it will require more rooms like this one to make people reconsider, and I appreciate your time and being here today. Thanks very much.